Today, I'm putting together a poke style dinner at home, almost like sushi, but make it easier. And it will be complete with homemade from scratch miso soup as a starter. And if you're not familiar with poke, it is a dish that comes from Hawaii, traditionally made with raw fish that's cut into pieces and seasoned simply. It started as a very straightforward way to enjoy the fresh fish that Hawaii was very abundant in, and eventually became into this very flexible style dinner that can be easily adapted at home. And as a bonus, you get sushi flavors at home with real food ingredients with only a fraction of the cost. I'm Anya with Prepare and Nourish, and I learned early on that a lot of the takeout meals that we love to get can easily be made at home with real food ingredients for a fraction of the cost. And this is one of those. Let's talk about the ingredients first. For the poke bowl, I keep things simple. Fresh tuna is the main focus here, so I look for the best quality I can find. I picked up this wild Ahi tuna from Trader Joe's. Speaking of good tuna, you'll often see labels like sushi grade or sashimi grade on packaging or in stores, but really all that is a marketing term and not a regulated standard. What matters most is proper handling. For home kitchens, I still recommend freezing tuna after you bring it home from the store, especially if you're eating it raw, like in poke bowls or in sushi bowls. Okay, enough about the tuna. Let's talk about the marinade. The marinade is very simple. We'll use coconut aminos or soy sauce or tamari, toasted sesame oil, rice vinegar, and white sesame seeds. The green onions will go into the marinade as well as be the topping for both the miso soup and the poke bowls. To bring the bowls together, we'll need some sushi rice and then whatever toppings you enjoy on a bowl of poke. And so we'll have the green onions, some cucumbers, avocado, and I will almost always make like a spicy mayo on the side just to kind of drizzle over the poke bowl. So that's it for poke bowls. Then let's move on to the ingredients for miso soup. The base of miso soup is what's called a dashi, which is what we are most familiar with, like bone broth. This is basically the base or the broth of the miso soup. And it's traditionally made with kombu, which is a sea vegetable that is very rich in minerals, and in flavoring we're going to use is actually these bonito flakes, which is kind of like the shavings off of a tuna fish. These are smoked tuna shavings. And we're just gonna simmer this in a little bit of water, and that will give us like the base of the miso soup. And of course, we have our traditional stand-ins, white miso paste, silken tofu, and then seaweed that this will mostly just be kind of like a garnish at the end. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how unfairly tofu has been villainized in the health circles in the last decade, myself included. When eaten in moderation and prepared traditionally, tofu can be a reasonable food. In fact, it can be a healthy food. It's been part of traditional diets for generations, especially in soups like this. In this context, the tofu isn't meant to be the star of the meal. It's a simple addition that adds protein and texture without weighing the soup down. Okay, let's get started on the miso. But we'll use about a cup of the bonito flakes, very loosely, like about that much. A quart and a half. And so we'll turn that on and we'll bring it to gentle simmer. And then as soon as it boils, we're actually going to turn it off and strain it. We don't want to cook the bonito flakes. We'll just wait for this to kind of come to a boil, just a gentle boil, and then as soon as it does, we're going to strain it. So then we'll just strain it. The broth itself isn't going to be very dark. Back on the stovetop, we're going to add about a quarter cup of white miso paste. This is a fermented miso paste, and that's what you want to look for. It's traditional fermented soybeans. And we'll do about a quarter cup, which kind of looks about this much. So what I like to do directly into the pot, I'll add the miso paste, and then I'll add just about a half a cup dashi that we just made, and then I'll try to whisk it to dissolve the miso paste. And once it's all smooth, then I'll add the rest of the dashi and I'll turn on the heat to about like medium. But I do want all of this to be very smooth. Okay, this looks good. And then we'll add the rest. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dice up our tofu, and I'm actually going to do a quick taste test to make sure that we have enough miso paste in here. Okay, I'm going to do a taste test, and what I'm looking for here is two things. One, miso paste is very salty, so I want to make sure that it's salty enough and that it's umami enough. It's good. It's very, very, very good actually. And miso soup will be ready. Now, silken tofu is very different from firm tofu. It's very, very soft. It's very delicate. It's very tender. And what you want to do, so tofu in and of itself is actually pretty bland. It's very, there's not a lot of flavor to it. But where it really shines is in recipes like a miso soup, where the broth is very flavorful. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to dice this as best as we can. And I currently have the broth on just like on a very low, gentle simmer. Some of this may break down further in the hot broth. So we're just going to add the diced tofu. I will also just kind of crumple up this seaweed, a few sheets of this. But here it works really well, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just tear some off and just add them to the miso. Now you can even use like those seaweed snacks. I've used that in the past. And finally, the last thing that goes into a miso soup are the green onions, and that is it. Look how good this looks. Now I understand this may not be sushi restaurant style miso soup, but the flavor is on point. We're going to get started with the rice since that cooks the longest. And sushi rice actually cooks differently than traditional rice. Measuring out about a cup of sushi rice. And then we're going to rinse it really well. So according to package instructions, you want the rice to soak for about 30 minutes. Because we're going with that sticky rice, so we're just going to let that soak for about 30 minutes. Meanwhile, we're going to get started on the marinade, and I'm going to chop up these green onions. And since I'm already cutting them, I'm going to cut all of them through. I have seen professional chefs teach you to chop like this with the knife go against the knuckles. That to me just seems so unsafe and not comfortable. So I always say just cut however you feel like cutting. Fast isn't always better. As long as all of your fingers and your fingernails are intact. I do like to cut my green onions very finely because I feel like that creates a more delicate texture in both the marinade and as a top. You can also do like diagonally, like cutting them at a bias to create more surface area. We'll use a little bit of that in the marinade, and then the rest we'll just save it for about that much. We'll go in the marinade. Okay, and because I'm doubling the recipe, I'm going to have to double the marinade, and so that'll make about a cup of soy sauce. I know that seems like a lot, but this is going to be most of the marinade. And then to that, 2 tablespoons of white sesame seeds. And I'm going to do the sesame seeds first because I'm going to use the same measuring spoon to then measure out the rice vinegar, which is, again, we'll need 2 tablespoons. If you're doing just one batch or like using 1.5 pounds of tuna, you want to use just 1 tablespoon of the rice vinegar. I'm doubling that, so that's 2 tablespoons. And same thing with the sesame oil. Now, we're not heating it up, so, and I think I'm only going to have about a tablespoon here. Very flavorful, but so we'll just give that a quick stir. When cooking with fish, it's very important that you remove any extra moisture. So I just take a paper towel and I dab it dry. I try to get it as dry as I can. To cut tuna, use a sharp knife, and you want to cut into 1/2 to 3/4 inch pieces. And you want to make sure you cut against the grain over here. So here's the grain. So, and then if there's any sinew or these fatty streaks, you want to remove them because otherwise they're just very chewy and they're not very pleasant. This piece, I will usually just cut that off because that's not going to be very pleasant to chew through. So once you have pieces about this size, you can just add them directly to the marinade. Now, the bigger the pieces, the longer you want your tuna to marinate, but you also don't want it to go over like 3 hours because the acid in the soy sauce will start breaking it down. And because tuna is a very delicate protein, delicate meat, I try to avoid stirring it with a spoon, and instead I'll just go in with a hand, like with a gloved hand, and just make sure that everything is coated well and that all of the tuna pieces are covered in the marinade. And you can cut them smaller. You do risk of them just kind of really disintegrating in the acid, and keep it in the fridge until it's ready to serve. I'm going to put this in the fridge and then we're going to get started on all of our toppings. Our rice has been soaking for about 30 minutes now, so now would be a good time to actually bring it to a boil. And then we're gonna reduce the heat and cover it and cook until it's cooked through. Now is also a good time to make spicy mayo. And I realized you can't make a spicy mayo if you're out of mayo. But that's the beauty of like from scratch Real Food Kitchen, is that you can actually whip up mayo really quickly. And so, so let's do that first, and then I'll show you how to make spicy mayo. So you'll need about 2-3 eggs. We'll go with 2. Let me show you real quickly how to do this. And I do have a video and I have a full blog post, the exact measurements to this recipe. But what you want to do is, and I use whole eggs because I don't like wasting the egg whites. There's a lot of recipes that call for just egg yolks. I use the full eggs. So we'll do 2 eggs, probably about 1/2 of a lemon. Okay, that's about it. And then, of course, lots of salt. And so then what you want to do first is you want to blend the eggs first And then as that starts mixing, we're gonna add the avocado oil. And you can use olive oil, you can use whatever oil you want. Just don't use soybean oil because that defeats the whole purpose of making homemade mayonnaise. And I start on low speed. See how it's thickening up? That's just oil that is being mixed in with the protein and the eggs, but that's essentially how mayo is created. So that's why when I'm out of a condiment like mayonnaise, it is really, really easy to make a batch. Look how thick that is. This was actually, homemade mayonnaise was one of the first condiments I learned how to make. And from there, I learned how to make ranch, blue cheese dressing, really any condiment, any dressing that where mayonnaise is the base. You got it. So now the rice is boiling. We're going to reduce that, cover it, and just let it simmer and cook. All of my exact measurements are on my blog post, and I'll link to that in the caption below. Now that we have mayo, we can make our spicy mayo. So we'll just do, you want to do about a cup of mayo. And then a few tablespoons of sriracha. And for lime juice, instead of a fresh lime, I sometimes like to cheat, and then I'll just do this. About a tablespoon of lime juice. So then we'll just stir everything to combine. And we can adjust the lime juice, the sriracha. If you want it a little bit more spicier, you can. And you could put this like in one of those squeeze bottles to make like a drizzle, or you could just leave it in a small bowl with a serving spoon. For the poke bowl toppings, I'm just gonna do cucumbers, the green onions, and then an avocado. And usually the avocado is either too ripe or it's not ripe enough in my case, but I'm determined to make it work. You could do either thin slices or just dice it up. You want to have like a perfectly green, soft, ripe avocado. Forgot to mention, you can also use things like pickled onions, kimchi, really anything that you think that would go well with, like on top of a poke bowl. So let's assemble our bowls now. This is our lineup. We have sushi rice. Then we have our marinated tuna, followed by whatever toppings you want to add to your poke bowl. And then the spicy mayo. The sushi rice is a sticky rice. And there you have it, a nice homemade tuna poke bowl made with the ingredients you know.
I love that this feels like a full-on sushi experience at home, but way easier. You've got the poke bowl, and if you want to take it over the top, start with the little miso soup. Totally optional. If I have the time, I'll make it, but honestly, these two together just work so well, it feels complete.
And this was made with a lot of pivoting along the way. Ran out of sesame oil, had to make my own mayo, just the bonito flakes instead of kombu and bonito flakes, and made a completely different dashi for the miso soup, but it all worked. And what we have is a very delicious, nourishing meal. If you'd like the full recipes with exact measurements and all of my tips and tricks, you'll find that on my website at prepareandnourish.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out other traditional recipes like ferments and organ meats and quick real food dinners like this one. And if this kind of content resonates with you, I'd love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss future episodes of Real Food Dinners. Eat well, be nourished, and I'll see you soon.